There's no divine right to win a game. You have to go earn it.
They have to win the Gold Cup. After the Gold Cup's over, there's no more competitive games prior to the World Cup. Does anybody understand that?
Unfiltered Soccer with Landon and Tim, presented by Volkswagen. Volkswagen has long been a supporter of soccer in America and has proudly been a partner of U.S. Soccer for the past 5 years.
LD, what's happening, bud? Usually we have a little bit of banter at the top. Today feels like a day of mourning. We're not going to banter.
No banter from me, bud.
There's a lot. This is CONCACAF Nations League wrap up, and it's not a lot of fun. It's not a lot of fun. I'm going to start us off by reading a quote from none other than yourself that went viral because people like to hear unfiltered takes. And you said after the game, "I'm sick of hearing how talented this group of players is and all the amazing clubs they play for. If you aren't going to show up and actually give a shit about playing for your national team, decline the invite. Talent is great. Pride is better." On that note, I'm going to let you go.
Well, let me just, when you go through like either a breakup or a hard time, or you go through all the emotions, right? And so I was expecting this morning, because last night was the Canada game, I was expecting to wake up much more calm, much more relaxed. And I'm frustrated as someone who dedicated not only his adult life, but his entire life to helping soccer grow, as you did, at the attitude and the demeanor and the effort. Now, I want to be careful because words matter. There were players on the field who cared, okay? But caring about playing a sport that you get paid to do should be the absolute bare minimum, okay? The absolute bare minimum. Just give a shit about actually playing, okay? But when you play for your national team, and I have chills just talking about this right now. There is such a responsibility. You know what we used to do, Tim? Sometimes, one of my first trips ever with the national team, we went to South Korea because we were going to play in the World Cup.
I was on that trip.
So we went the year before.
Yep.
And we went to the DMZ. And for people who don't know, the DMZ is the demilitarized zone between South Korea and North Korea. And you walk, there's this little building. And you walk in the building, and halfway through the building, you're in South Korean territory, and halfway, the other half, you're in North Korea. And you have these armored guards, Korean, American, North Korean, standing there, and it hits you in the face, dude. And you're like, whoa, these guys are protecting something way bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
And they're putting their lives on the line for our country, okay? When you put on your jersey and you see the stars and stripes and you hear the national anthem, I don't care if there's one person in the crowd or 6 million people. You have an obligation to give a shit, okay? And be proud about playing for your country. And there were too many guys the last 2 games. And before that, by the way, there was the Mexico away game that we watched a few months ago. I'm like, do they even want to be out there? Are they willing to do something to put themselves on the line, to risk something to get a result? Now, look, we're talking about soccer. It's not the end of the world, okay? But if you can't do that, just don't come into camp. Anthony Robinson wasn't feeling physically right. There's something going on. He said, I appreciate it, but I can't. Fine, fair enough, fine. If you're going to go, you're going to do all the social media and all the posts and all that and take all that, then show up and perform, okay? And that's it. That's a starting point. If you lose, you lose. We all lost games. So I'm so sick of it. They're so talented. They play at these great clubs. I'm like, who cares, dude? You know who doesn't play at great clubs? The Panamanian players.
Yep.
Yep. And by the way, Tim, and we'll get into all this, and I'm going to go on a bunch of tangents today.
Sure.
I apologize in advance if people hate it.
No apologies. That's what we do.
Mauricio Pochettino grew up in Argentina, okay? Can you imagine Argentina playing Uruguay and 8 or 9 of the players on the field gave that kind of effort? Dude, they would not be able to leave their hotel room to get back on the plane. They wouldn't. The fans wouldn't let them. They'd say, you ain't leaving. Sorry, bro.
Yeah.
And our guys are just like, oh, ho hum, okay, I'll go back to my club and make my millions of dollars. And I'm sick of it, man. I'm sick of it. I am.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I think when I look overall at the two games, massive disappointment. Because here's the thing. This is from an overall view. This is from a fan. Yes, I analyze soccer for a living, but as a fan, I'm hugely disappointed because none of this feels or looks good. U.S. Soccer, and I've got some dear friends at U.S. Soccer, and they ain't going to want to hear this. Yo, I watched the game yesterday. Again, I'm not the crowd control police, but I'm going to continue to wear the hat. There's nobody there. I played in the most bang average summer friendlies at the most terrible time of the day in God knows what city, and there was more people than there was for that game. So the planning, it's the planning for both the semifinal and the final and third place game were horrific. They're playing in front of nobody. So that's
okay. So let me jump in real quick to that because I got clarity on this morning. So this is a CONCACAF event. Okay.
Yeah.
So CONCACAF controls it.
Okay.
So as far as that goes, that's a CONCACAF issue. However, that being said, U.S. Soccer is obviously CONCACAF's most important partner.
Yeah, of course.
With Mexico being 1A.
Of course.
Right? So you figure out a way to not play the opening game on Thursday.
Of course.
And, by the way, CONCACAF and with U.S. Soccer, like, they're having these conversations. Don't make the lowest ticket price $100.
Right.
Because it's ridiculous. Make it accessible so people can get in and watch. It's a joke. It's a joke. Now, I just want to, give U.S. Soccer some grace there. However, if I'm U.S. Soccer and you're having these negotiations and CONCACAF's like, we're going to make the lowest ticket price $100, you're like, no, you ain't. You're going to play at 3:30 in the opening game. No, we ain't.
No, right.
We're playing at 7:30.
Totally.
Right.
Listen,
okay,
bro.
continue.
100%. And so that was an issue, right? But believe me, not the biggest issue. There's no divine right to win a football match. So this isn't a concept of like they should have won both games and to hell with them. No, that's not the case. But the idea that my firm belief is if we're in big games, and these were big games, these were semifinal and a competitive third place game. If we're going to get beat, you're going to walk off the field limping. That's the exchange. We don't get beat and you cruise. Ain't how it works. If we're going to get beat, you're going to earn it, and you're actually going to be desperate to get off the field. Because, listen, I've played in games where my team's chasing shadows, but we've actually kick the lump, and people don't want to hear that. That's the thing. Football's too expansive now. Play between lines, get the ball in the 6-yard box and play. No, it's about everybody in the world. The best game in world football is El Clasico, or it has been, right? Barcelona versus Real Madrid. Please, the next time you have an opportunity, watch the first 20 minutes of that game. There's nothing pretty about it. It's the best footballers in the world, and there's nothing pretty about it because it's a mentality. It's a siege mentality. It's draw the lines, fight for what you're going to get, and then the game opens up. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that it took for Gio Reyna to come on the pitch and take a guy's knee off, and then there wants to be a kerfuffle and a coming together. You ever watch hockey? You ever watch hockey when you're playing a rival? Sometimes a puck isn't even touched before someone draws the battle lines. And so there's a competitive element that's missing with this team. Yes, there's talent in certain areas. Of course, there's talent in certain areas. What we love, and we talk about it all the time. But we have to talk about the other side of it, the competitive nature, the leadership. That's a big issue for this team. And Mauricio Pochettino was saying, I think he was quoted as, "We have time." I tend to disagree with him a little bit because here's the thing, LD. This group of players got a manager sacked, lost 3 of the last 4 to Panama, have an abysmal showing in the Nations League. Abysmal. To finish 4th is a crime. And now, and by the way, before anybody, and we love your comments, so bring them in. Before any of the current players get upset with me, I've gotten coaches sacked as well. I've been a part of groups. You've been a part of groups.
Yeah.
That you don't perform well enough, your teammates don't perform well enough, where you get your coaches sacked. It sucks. But this group got a coach sacked, lost 3 out of 4 to Panama, finished 4th in the Nations League. I tell you what, if you thought all eyes were going to be on the Gold Cup, by God, they have to win. They have to win the Gold Cup. I don't know. After the Gold Cup's over, there's no more competitive games prior to the World Cup. Does anybody understand that? I know there's friendlies. And by the way this group is going, they're not going to all be together. They're not going to all be together for these friendlies.
Right.
There'll be certain guys pulling out. That's okay. It happens. But guess what? You've run out of time. So unless the entire group is together and wins the Gold Cup, I'm worried. But yes, I think Pochettino, when he says there's time, I think there's probably like another month and a half in terms of time. After that, there's no more competitive games, simply put.
All right, we'll go all over the place, but let's just start with Pochettino and what he's learned, right? So again, I'm going to use a dating analogy. If you're dating someone and they're crazy, you rather find out after the second date that they're crazy.
Yeah.
You don't want to be 3 years in and go, oh, he's crazy or she's crazy, right? So my guess is he's going back, watching the games, watching individuals and some of the performances and some of the ways, the effort, like the full effort wasn't there, and going, I got to think about this one, right? Because you know whose effort was there, Tim? The guy who nobody's heard of until 3 weeks ago, Diego Luna, or in January. Like, that guy cares. He cares. He was chasing down the goalkeeper at the end of the game. Like, he cared. It meant something to him. It meant something to him. More than just a normal soccer game. And there's lots of reasons why something can mean more to you. It doesn't have to be because you have this crazy, amazing American pride, okay? Yes, they do, whatever. Maybe it's, I need my next paycheck. I need my next contract. Yeah. That's fine. No problem. Guys, especially before us, and some of the guys during ours were making 80 grand a year, and they're like, that $4,000 extra bonus to win this game, I need it. I got bills to pay. I need it. Guys now, they don't need that, okay? So the money motivation is out of the equation for these guys.
Yeah.
It just needs to mean more to you. And I don't know how you find that, where you find that, but you better find it. Because it means more to Panama. It meant more to Canada. It means more to Mexico.
It should never. I mean, here's the thing, right? So we agree on this. Tyler Adams was quoted after the game, and it's really interesting because sometimes it's when you read something that a player says or a manager says, you then have to dissect it. Tyler Adams said, I mean, listen, it's hard for me to judge. I think my mentality is a little bit different. I'd agree with that. I think we need to have every single person buy into exactly what we're doing and why we're trying to do it. But it's just the little things for me. Duels, tackles, leaving your mark on the field, not being naive in certain moments, being a little bit more clever. All the details of the game that I feel when I watch people play with their clubs, we do. Right? So, and then he finishes the quote and says, and then we come here. Sometimes I think we forget a little bit what the games are going to give us. So that's what he said, right, LD? My issue with what he said is he's a little bit different. But he was saying, and I agree with Tyler Adams. He's saying he is different. His mentality is different. He'll leave something on you, right? So basically, he's talking about the players around him, and he's saying, I'm a little bit different. But we need everybody to buy in, which means that not everybody's buying in. And by the way, this is what I just said. The duels, the tackles, leaving something, that's a prerequisite. As soon as you cross the line, you should be like, that's sort. I don't know if we're going to score today, but I'm going to win my challenges. I'm going to put somebody on the ground, and they're going to know they were in a game. That done, right? The rest of it, we don't know. And so I just, I think about I like what he's saying. I'm wondering how much of that is translating into the dressing room. Let me give you an example. When we played, I think we probably played 100 times together. There were times where I would call someone to a chord, but players, brothers of mine, who I love dearly, will get their finger this close to my face and say, you ain't performed today. You ain't done good enough. And because of the personality I had, I stood up, I bowed up, we got to grips with each other, right? But you know what happened? I went back out on the pitch and I thought, that shivered me to my core. I hated that feeling of being called out and letting somebody down. That it will never, ever happen again. But I needed that reminder. And players that I was around were big enough, bold enough, and strong enough to say that to me. And there's been times you've looked across the dressing room at me and said things. And I thought that hurt because I respect this guy. But leaders, the problem is leaders can't be liked. if you want to be a leader and be liked, you're in the wrong profession, right? Because I had players, yourself, more nasty was Clint and Jermaine Jones and Michael Bradley. These are all people that I call friends and brothers. But you know what? I tell you something. They would prefer to win first and lose my friendship than to keep my friendship and lose a game. That's a matter of fact. I love Michael Bradley. He is eternally my brother, but I can tell you this. He'd give up dinners and wine with me to win. And that's the difference between being a leader and not being.
Mm-hmm. Let me follow up on that. There was, we found, our producers found a great quote from Walker Zimmerman after the during the Olympics. He said this to Sam Borden. He believes the biggest thing his younger Olympic teammates will take away is appreciation for representing the USA. That gives me chills. Something he said has begun to slip with this U.S. men's player pool. Raw candor from the veteran. His quote was, I think to some degree we've gotten away from that and feel like just because we're whoever you are, that you just can get called in. That stuff pisses me off. I think guys need to, every time they put on the jersey, I don't care how talented you are, you want to play with pride. And I think we have the characters to do it, but we don't always do it, which is exactly what I said. That's so, we can be the old men, yelling at the cloud. This guy was in the locker room, Tim. He's in the locker room and he's saying it. And again, we're going all over the place, but I wanted to go back and watch these games and analyze it and get to a point where I'm like, how is Mauricio Pochettino trying to get this team to play? What are they starting to look like? What things are they? And now I'm like, it doesn't matter what we do. Mm-hmm. If you don't get that first part right, you have zero chance of competing at a high. You'll win some games because you're more talented and you'll get through it. But at the highest level, when it really means something, these other teams, you cannot get away with it. It's not sustainable. Yeah. And I wonder if in the Gold Cup, Tim, we're going to see some interesting omissions where he just says, ain't good enough. Tim, you have to earn the right to get your next cap. You have to earn your right. Let me tell you a story. I was early in my career. We were playing a Gold Cup and Bruce was our coach. And I asked him if I could come in late because I was going on a vacation trip to Tahiti. Okay. So I wasn't as fit. I wasn't whatever, but I came into camp. He plays me. I think we were playing Haiti. It was in Miami. I think it was at the Orange Bowl. We play in this game and I was shocking. But at that point I was doing well and I just assumed it would be fine. You know what he did? He subbed me. I think it was the only time he ever subbed me on the national team. Subbed me after like 58 minutes. And he said, if you ever perform like that again, you ain't getting called in again. Don't ever do that again. And I was like, okay, I'm going to think about this next time. I ain't going on vacation next year. And some of these guys need that.
Yeah. I mean, look, you hit the nail on the head with the Walker Zimmerman thing. You and I are two old guys who have the #1 soccer podcast in America. That's fine. But guess what? Walker Zimmerman was in the trenches. When we start talking about like, hey, this is what I think, but I don't know what's happening on the inside. Walker Zimmerman just told us, not just a couple months ago, told us what's happened on the inside. Now, he's not a part of really the setup anymore, but these are the same guys who he was in the dressing room with. And so that was a direct hit. He didn't have to say that, by the way. There was a whole bunch of other avenues he could have went with Sam Borden about the young players.
Yep.
But he took the opportunity to take a stand and leave a little bit of a marker on with these guys. And so, look, that obviously is cause for concern. I think it needs to happen soon. What I would say about the Gold Cup is I take your point. I would even go the other way, and here's why. I look at the lineups, and we'll get to the lineups of the Panama game and the Canada game. We're not good enough, Landon. We've never been good enough, and I don't see a time in the future where we will be good enough to not constantly play your best players. And you know what? When you need to give I hate using this, like a throwaway cap, or I need to see a guy to see if he can perform at this level. You do that after you've had a successful run of like 6-7 games. Okay, now this feels like a lesser opponent. We'll plop a few guys in. We'll chop and change. But they don't get that right. You should have your best 11 available. Okay, Anthony Robinson, as an example, wasn't there. Serginho Dest, not there. No problem. But your best current 11 should be playing back-to-back games. Like the best 11, there shouldn't have been as many changes. I'm questioning the manager. He might have other reasons. He might have needed to see players. I'm simply saying we're not good enough to do that. We've got to figure, like our Gold Cup should be our best 11, 13 players. Everybody else, go sit over there. I'll let you know when it's time for, okay, we're up 4-0. Here's 5 minutes. Like we don't have any time. Bro, we don't have any time. And I was worried about this going into the last World Cup. I remember saying our best players have not played together, whether that be through injury or the club versus country. They haven't played. So you get into a World Cup and your best players haven't played together. This is an issue. This is an issue because I said, once the Gold Cup comes, there's no more measuring stick. There's no more opportunity to get the guys together and go, I wonder how a group of our best players is going to perform in a tournament. Because normally you'd have Gold Cup, then you'd have World Cup qualifying. We don't have it. I'm like, I'm a broken record. So if that doesn't happen, and I know you said about omissions, and I get sending a message, I almost think it's too late to send a message. We don't have the time.
Right. Well, then, I mean, maybe those just aren't, some of those guys aren't the guy then. You have to, as a coach, you have to trust your players. You have to trust that they are going to at least give you a 7 out of 10, and you know that every time they step on the field.
Right.
Maybe they're crap on the ball. Maybe they can't complete a pass. Maybe that whatever. But you know you're getting this effort.
Maybe
you have to be able to do that.
Maybe, but I've said to you in the past, and I've been very open with this publicly. In America, our best 13 players are our best 13 players. That's it. If they're not performing, if they don't care, if the crest doesn't mean anything, fine, put somebody else in, but they're not up to standard. Now, when you go to Holland or you go to Spain or you go to Brazil and you go, oh, this guy's chucked it in, no problem, because I got a striker.
Yeah, he won't play again.
I got a striker at Liverpool who's banging goals and knocking down the door, and it's fine. We don't have that. So I've said this all along, our best 13 players, that's it. There's a massive decline after you get past that. There is. So I guess you can send a message and you can play guys who care more, but you're going to lose something somewhere. And I just, it worries me. It worries me.
I had a really good conversation this morning with someone I respect and I think is the most brilliant football mind in our country. And he said 2 things he said that really resonated with me. He said, like you say, Pep Guardiola's ruined football. Okay. So every player now, not every player, sorry. There are many players around the world who play in a system that's similar to what Pep does at City. The problem is they don't have the best players in the world.
Correct.
Okay. So they're trying to play in a certain way and they're getting accustomed to playing in a certain way, but they're not good enough to do it. Okay. So if let's take the top 5 club teams and the top 5 national teams in the world. They can do it, should they choose to. Then you have the other end of the spectrum, the Panamas, right? They're like, we ain't good enough to do that, so we're not going to try. We're going to be Panama. We're going to be in a 5-4-1, and I'll tell you what, if you try to come into the box and score, you're going to get your leg broken, okay? You score a goal, great, your leg's going to be snapped. And we're going to do that, and we're going to do that really well. Then you get everybody else in the middle who thinks they're over here, and they're the best, but they ain't good enough to do it. And we fall into that category, right? And so now, and this is not a slight on Greg Berhalter or Pochettino, whatever. It's just the way soccer is going. But we're not good enough to be that, Tim. You know when we were at our very best?
Yeah.
When we got to a quarterfinal in 2002 and we sat and defended it and we had a few guys who could go make plays and we were great at it.
Yeah.
And that's it. And so the identity piece in that way is very real and that's true. And we need to determine, and I think yesterday it should have been determined or 3 weeks or this is who we are and this is who we're going to be. Because when you get against the good teams, the best, they just do it better than we do. The other thing he said, and this is so true, and we've talked about this before, there are, and I refer to them as captains, but there are not enough guys on this current team who are captains for their clubs. And the way he said it, and this is so good, is there are not enough guys who are responsible for the result of their team.
Well said.
Okay. So, and again, we can be the old guys, whatever, and back in our day and all this crap. But when we were on the field, there were guys on the field, all over the field, who, if they didn't perform well, their club team probably lost.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If you had a bad game at Everton, you probably lost. Okay. If Clint Dempsey didn't play well for New England or Fulham or whatever, not great. If I didn't play well for the Galaxy, we're going to lose. Michael Bradley didn't play well wherever he was. Bees everywhere he was. Like, guys who were responsible for getting a result. And, in a weird way, Diego Luna, even though he's young, like, if he doesn't play well, RSL's not as good. At Charlotte, like, Ajimong needs to play and play well, and they're a better team, right? But there's not a lot of guys who fall into that. So when it's hard and it's dirty and it's nasty and whatever, most of our guys are kind of going, okay, where's the captain and where's the Dutch international and where's the French international who always carries us? We don't have a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, I know you're going to take us to break in a second, but look, let me just finish on this. You pointed out the person you spoke to today, the U.S. identity. There are so many coaches in this country who are a bunch of jokers who continue to tell me, we play between lines, we connect. Yeah, you can have a profile of how you want to play tactically. You will never convince me that a U.S. team, first and foremost, has to be dominant and nasty and hungry. The football, great. That can be amazing. If we have the football and we don't have the nastiness as a country when we step on the field, that we'll never make it. That's our profile. People want to get away from that. Do you want to get away from that bunker-in mentality? Yes, you do. But you can never get away from the physicality side of the game as a U.S. player because, as you mentioned, we fall into that middle ground where we think we're the best, but we're not quite.
All right, I should have done this at the beginning, but I don't know. I'm emotional today. Sorry. Follow us on social media at Unfiltered Soccer. Subscribe to the show, please, on YouTube or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what we're doing, maybe you hate what we have to say today, that's fine. If you like it, follow us, rate us. You can always email us. We've got a ton of questions over the last 24 hours. Feedback at unfilteredsoccer.com. All right, let's take a break. This is what we're doing all day. So if you don't like it, you can turn off. But this is what we're talking about. This is on our minds, and this is what's important. So we will be right back on the other side, continuing to talk about the U.S. men's national team failure in the CONCACAF Nations League right here on Unfiltered Soccer with Landon and Tim, as always presented by Volkswagen. Stick around.
The Unfiltered Soccer podcast is brought to you by Volkswagen, the presenting partner of U.S. Soccer.
Since 2019, Volkswagen has been on a mission to drive the future of the sport we all love, and VW is committed to making it more diverse, inclusive, and accessible for everyone.
They're not just talking about it, they're out there doing it. VW's partnerships, programs, and soccer clinics are unlocking opportunities for the next generation of players and fans.
As a longtime friend of Volkswagen, I've seen firsthand how VW are connecting with fans and driving the sport forward. From working with them on clinics to being part of their incredible campaigns, it's clear. U.S. Soccer is truly powered by the people.
Thank you to VW for being our presenting partner. Learn more about how VW are supporting U.S. Soccer at VW.com. There's a lot in life that feels like it should be guaranteed that just isn't. Your team winning the championship, the weather being good on game day, your friends remembering who has the tickets. Some days, you're a goal-scoring machine.
And some days, the ball just passes you by. Right here on Unfiltered Soccer, we know that no matter how much you love the beautiful game, nothing on the field is guaranteed. Thankfully, AT&T is introducing a brand new guarantee, the AT&T Guarantee.
The AT&T Guarantee means connectivity you can depend on, deals you want, and service you deserve. Or they'll make it right.
Whether you're in the stands, watching with friends, or just cheering from home, you can count on the AT&T Guarantee.
Learn more at att.com/guarantee. Terms and conditions apply. Okay, so we had to pause, and I had to tell Landon, open the back door, go for a walk. Calm down.
I'm so angry. I'm like, it's just visceral. I'm trying to figure out why I need theraapy.
And I think I do too, but it's not about soccer. Look, I think our fans, our listeners appreciate the passion. I know they do. We're going to dive into a little bit more of the changes, the personnel, what we saw, what we thought, what we think should happen, in the future games, which are obviously vitally important, being the Gold Cup. So let's kind of take a little bit of a deep dive into that.
Yeah. So the first game, so we went, if you remember, Tim, the episode, preview episode,
Yep.
The lineup we thought was going to be the lineup was the lineup minus, I think we had Anthony Robinson in.
Mm-hmm.
So Scally played left back in the first game and Musa played right back against Panama. I was fully intending to go rewatch the games, break it down analytically, try to figure out what they're trying to accomplish. But there were plays early in the game where it was like a ball high in the air, and I would see a Panamanian midfielder go sprinting towards the ball, jumping, and like literally just putting himself on the line to win a header. And our guys kind of backing out and kind of, turtleneck and what. And I was like, oh no. Like, because once you break the spirit and soul of a team like that, then your talent comes through.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
That's right. It's a good point.
But you have to earn that. You've said it. Like, you have to earn that right to play. You have to earn the right to play. And with Panama, we never did. And they were never threatened. The expected goals for us was like, it was less than 1. It was abysmal. And it was just, there was never urgency to go make the play. It was like, oh, we'll make the play. The play will come. And even with the coaching staff, it was like, oh, in extra time, we'll put on Diego Luna and Gio Reyna. And it's like, no, but it doesn't happen that way, right? Like, the game can be over in a moment. And as you said earlier, there's no divine right to win a game. You have to go earn it.
Yeah. And look, when we break down these lineups, we'll talk goalkeeper in a second, right? But I break down these lineups, and I'm not really so concerned about Scally and Musa. Musa is a kind of a utility player, right? Which I think hurts him a little bit, because he could play as a fullback in a pinch. Robinson and Desk, when healthy, lockdown on either side. So okay with that, right? I think Chris Richards is our best center back, and then it's a +1. Then who plays alongside him in the best games, right? For me, we're missing our strikers. We're missing both of our strikers, which by the way, at the best of times is still a weak spot for us. So we have to have Ricardo Pepi or Flo Balogun healthy and fit. We don't have that. And ultimately, I think tactically, again, with that jack of all trades, I think Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie have so many good facets to their game that sometimes it's too much. Here's what I'm saying. There's oftentimes, with our group as an example, we were told internally as our group, and you'll probably remember this, we can't all go out there and give all of ourselves, because it's going to be too much. It's going to be too robust for the group, right? They needed a little bit less from me, a little bit less from Jermaine Jones, a little bit less from Eula. Now, we're still going to give 100%, but it's all not going to fit in the box if we're all on a 10, right?
Right.
And so Weston can drive forward. We know Tyler can tackle and spring forward, and they like to get in the box. I genuinely think you get your best goalkeeper in and your best back four, and you tell Tyler and Weston, you're going to sit in a double 6 and you're going to protect. You're going to protect, right? Because then what that allows is and that's when you can use their physicality and their ball winning and their ability to pass between lines, because then it allows you to get your 4 best attacking players on the field, right? Like, in the moment, Weston is considered one of the best attacking players, but this goes back to my original point. We need him to be his best ball-winning, energetic self. Do I think he can make a late run in the box if everything is settled behind him? Sure. But I would like to see Weston and Tyler sit as a double 6, which would then allow us to get our best 4 attacking players on the field. That gives Gio Reyna a spot on one side. That gives Weah a spot on the other. Christian Pulisic, it gives him basically a license to roam, because he's got 2 dogs behind him, right? So he can vacate the middle of the park. He can make a run onto the wing. He can go forward as a double striker. He can go help the midfield, but he's got 2 dogs behind him, right? And then ahead of him, you put your best striker, whether that's Ricardo Pepi or, as we said, Flo Balogun. That makes me think, okay, that excites me. That makes me think we have it. But again, I need to see that lineup for 10 games in a row.
Consistently.
6 games in a row. I mean, look, the goalkeeper is a big talking point. It was a big talking point going into this set of games. And
we were both shocked, right, to see Matt Turner start.
Yeah, I was shocked, because I think the world of both Matt and Zack, and I think they are very similar in terms of talent, but they're different from a talent standpoint. But they could both do a job for you. And the biggest issue, which no one can argue, is that Matt hasn't been playing for his club. Now, that's not people will, and they did this with me at moments when I wasn't playing. They're gonna try and pick the bones out of him and go, well, if he was playing, he would have saved this and all. I don't know. That's somewhat circumstantial. My thought is, you touched on this earlier. If Zack Steffen is in really good form, which he is, and he had a brilliant game leading into this camp for Colorado, man of the match. I think it was against San Jose or something. I can't remember. And Matt's not playing. Well, we know Matt is a really good goalkeeper. You don't as Pochettino, you don't need to see if Matt can perform at this level. What you need to do, put Matt on the bench when he earns his spot, right? And he's playing every week, then you play him for the national team, because there's no question on what that Matt Turner can play for the national team. He's played in the World Cup. So you don't actually have to see if he can perform at that level. In fact, you reward the guy in Zack Steffen who's been playing and playing well until the competition heats up. Now, look, I've been told that the goalkeeper, Zack Steffen got sick. He fell ill before the Canada game, right? And so there's this notion that he wasn't playing against Canada because he fell ill, which is probably right. But the fact of the matter is, from what I'm hearing, the goalkeepers that went into camp, there was no discussion of what was going to happen on who was going to play which game.
Meaning nobody had spoken to them.
Nobody, whether that be goalkeeper coach or head coach, nobody had spoken to them. That's what I'm hearing. Because, and the reason that's weird is, whether I was a senior established goalkeeper or I was one of the young kids, every time I would go into camp, either a phone call the week before I came into camp, or when I landed and we're in the training session, goalkeeper coach or the manager would say, "Hey, Tim, I'm thinking about playing in the second game." Or that was when I was younger. Or, "Hey, we're thinking about playing someone else in the second game." To which, by the way, when I knew there was a 2-game window and the manager was thinking about playing another goalkeeper, you know what I said to him? "Oh, no, Gaff, I'm fit and ready. I want to play both games." I lobbied my case. And you know how many times I ended up playing 2 games? Because he wanted to give somebody else an opportunity to play it? To hell with them.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting one. The goalkeeper.
Yeah. So look, the illness doesn't explain the first game.
Correct.
Right. Why Matt Turner? Whatever. Every coach has their it's their prerogative to choose whoever.
Totally.
I'm not even going to ask you, because I know how you goalkeepers all protect yourself. There is zero doubt in my mind of a few things. One, Zack Steffen makes the save for Panama's goal right now. 0. Matt Turner, when he's playing in sharp, 0 doubt he makes that save. This is what I'll say about that. If I turn just inside the 18 at that angle and hit that shot and it went in the goal, I would feel like I just robbed a bank.
Okay.
I feel like,
fair.
Great. And I'd celebrate like crazy, but I'd be like, Jesus, I got away with that one.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. That ball should never, ever, ever go in the net at a senior international for a top 20 team in the world. 0, ever. I love Matt Turner. This is not personal. I mean, I was going to say it's not his fault. It is his fault he's not playing, but he's got to be playing somewhere, and he makes that save no problem. And I bet you if he looks in the mirror at night, he'll tell you the same.
Sure.
Second thing is, you're trying to wind me up, I know.
I never wind you up.
I don't care if you're sick. What do you mean you're sick? You're sick and you can't play a game as a goalkeeper? Now, maybe it wasn't his choice. Maybe they kept him away. Maybe they didn't let him play. Whatever it is. Dude, you're standing in the goal for 90 minutes. You're doing some things. No, I'm being serious here. But like, it's not like you're running 8 miles. And by the way, and this is not me only, everybody I know played sick all the time. Yeah, Robbie Keane played through things you can't even imagine. I watched Clint Dempsey the day before a game get his toenail pulled off with no painkiller. No, he just sat there like a man.
I'm trying my best to not throw up.
I know. And I saw him take his toenail off. And you know what he did the next day? He played and scored a goal. So don't tell me because you're sick you can't play. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I don't know the circumstance. I'm giving it context. I'm just saying, just play. Like, it's the national team, dude. Play the game.
Well, here's the thing. I take your point.
Or put him in the game. If you're if you really want to play, put him in. It's fine.
You and I were talking about this either last night or early this morning, and you brought up the point because I'll give you the example. You talked about the Clint example, and we all have them, but I'll give you personals. But maybe things have changed because of COVID. You mentioned that to me, right? Like maybe protocols within the team have changed, and and the only reason that I take that on board is because there were multiple times, particularly in my national team career. Because when I was home and I was living in Manchester and playing Premier League, it was like I was home, right? And so
Right,
the
you're not
manager
impacting anyone, right?
yeah, and so the manager would always be like, David Moyes, our beloved manager, would be sick on like a Thursday. He'd send the doctor around, and doctor would say, yeah, gave Tim meds, and he'll be able to play Saturday, but I can't train Friday. And the guy would say, okay, stay home, but then come to the match. In the national team, you fly in, you get sick, you get the flu, whatever, stomach bug. I remember having conversations with the physio in our hotels, Landon, and I'd say, Doc, I ain't well. I need you to call me an antibiotic. I need you to give me something, right? And by the way, I need to be in my room for the next 30 hours. But I'm going to play. I just need to be by myself in my room for the next 30 hours. Then I'd speak to the manager with the physio, and I'd say, Gaffer, I'm good to go. I'm good to go. But I can't leave my room because I need rest. I need fluids. I need someone to stop it coming in or out or whatever the heck is going on with my body. But don't you worry. By game time, we'll have that part figured out. And yeah, you go in and you play at not your 100% best self, but you drive yourself over the line. And again, that's not a reflection on Zack Steffen. I have a feeling that that's probably the new way of what COVID left into, not COVID, but in terms of the protocols and the way we treat the players. And yeah, like you said, you naturally will play through anything.
Tim, wouldn't you would have begged to play.
Totally. I would have begged. I would.
And by the way, you know who begged last time to play was Diego Luna when he got his nose broken.
Yeah.
And he said, please leave me in the game.
Yeah.
Please leave me in.
Yeah, but that's why I don't think it's a reflection on Zack Steffen. I think it's a reflection on
I'm sure Zack wanted to play, of course.
Protocols and whatever else is going on.
Or maybe it was an easy excuse. Maybe they didn't want to play him. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Right?
Maybe that's true.
I don't know what the.
I hope not.
Look, okay. So there's so many places to go. I want to talk about what?
Where do you want to take
it? For everywhere. So we've talked about this problem, right? That we have identified, and I'm to the point now where I am secure that this is a problem, and it's the passion and the pride to play for your national team. It doesn't, I'm careful with my words. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying guys don't care, right? I'm using quotes. They care. It's a soccer game. It's their profession, whatever. But there is something more when you're just playing, going through the motions. And I did it plenty of times in my life with my club team where it was a Wednesday and there's an empty stadium and you're like, okay, but you're out there. It's 90 minutes. You compete, the adrenaline, but you're not like, I'm willing to die for this. Okay. Mm-hmm. Every time, 150 plus times I put on the national team jersey, I was willing to die for it. I was like, this is it. I appreciate this opportunity and I ain't letting it go.
Yeah.
Never. Okay. So there is a problem there. Now I'm trying to think, and I did a lot of thinking in the last 24 hours of how do you remedy the problem and what's the root of the problem? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, I don't have any data on this. Okay. But there is, we've talked through some of it, not a lot of leaders on their club teams, not guys who are responsible for the results. There's no question generationally, these guys just aren't as gritty and resilient and used to difficult times. Part of that, and we'll get, I don't want to open too much of a Pandora's box, but is the way these kids are treated from the time they're 8 years old and told how great they are in youth soccer. Nobody tells them anything they need to hear.
Yeah, agreed.
And that extends then as professionals to their friends, their family, their agents, right? The people around them who need to pull them aside after this week and say, hey, that ain't good enough. And you know Rich Motzkin, my agent. There were so many times, Tim, where I would call him on the way home and he was at a game and he'd say, how do you think you played? And I'd go, pretty well. And he would go, no, you didn't. You're terrible. And I go, really? He goes, yeah, you were terrible. And because the player always thinks it's everyone else's fault and, they were fine and whatever. So that is part of it too. And I'm just calling these people out and, agents are a big part of it too. Like, stop kissing your client's ass. Tell them what they need to hear sometimes. Tell them that it ain't good enough. Tell them they don't run the world. Tell them to stop doing stupid stuff off the field, right? Like, they need to hear that. And it's all just a part of this whole system that has created players that are not resilient, not tough, not willing to buckle down when it's really hard. And it's all part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
it's not black and white. There's nuance everywhere, and
no.
there's lots of pieces to it. But I've just been trying to dissect what is going on that kind of effort is what comes out of these two games.
Let me piggyback on two things you just said. So I agree with that. I also agree with Pochettino being a very good manager, being from Argentina and having nastiness in him.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen it in his coaching career as a player he was. So I'm sitting here watching these two games, but this wasn't just these two games. We've seen other. January camp was good, but we know what the January camp is, and then so you're looking at it, and I'm starting to wonder, like, is there going to be a moment where we see, like, who Pochettino is, like that ruthlessness, that nastiness? Is he still in the evaluation period? Excuse me. Like, because so much of what you're saying doesn't feel like Mauricio Pochettino to me. I know what I've witnessed what he is. I've covered him as a manager, and it's just kind of like, okay, when is that going to come out? Because this feels a little bit too laid back for what you're saying, right? You're saying, like,
it does.
There's something missing here. I don't think that he's not seeing that. Like, that's what my soccer brain says. I know he's seeing it. This guy is clever. He's a very good manager. He's been around, by the way, bigger players, nastier players who down tools. He's been around all of it, right? Yep. And so I'm just thinking, is there going to be a time? And you mentioned it, in terms of omissions. How's he going to name the squad? What's he going to do in the Gold Cup? Like, those are big questions.
So Tim, you're right. You're dead on. It almost seems like he's just analyzing. Like when there's a big scuffle on the field and the referee like walks away and removes him or herself and just watches. Yeah. It looks like he's just going, okay. Yeah. Okay. And I'll tell you what, sorry, I'm cutting in, but
no, good.
He made a triple substitution against Canada. Yeah. He made a triple substitution. You know who he brought off? Pulisic, McKennie, Tyler Adams. And when it first happened, I was like, oh, he's probably had a conversation with their club teams and they have to get ready. And then I was like, wait a minute, it's a Sunday. They don't play again until at least next weekend. And if you don't have an FA Cup game, you have even more time. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because if you're going to win a game, you're not taking those three off. If you need a goal to win a game, you're not taking them off. So continue. But I think he's not stupid.
The thing that struck me, and then this is a big talking point for this segment, that triple substitution of Pulisic, Weah, and Adams.
McKennie and Adams.
Sorry, Pulisic, McKennie, and Adams. Mm-hmm. I remember watching it thinking, I hear because the commentators could see what we couldn't see, right? They could see who's warming up, who's stripped and ready to come on. And I was like, ain't no way. Like, they must have one or two of these wrong, because those are out and out. We don't care if you've watched a team one time. Those are the best three players we have in America, right? And so I'm thinking, there's no way. And then I'm looking at the score. I think they were down a goal, or it was even.
Yeah, they were down. We were down.
And I'm thinking, you're chasing the game, and our producer can correct me if I'm wrong. I think, what minute of the game was it? Like 60s?
65 or 70. Yeah.
Right? So I'm like, there's a lot of game left here, by the way. I think of it, I always put myself in those shoes. And I'm like, if I was on the pitch and I saw your number come up, Clint Dempsey's number come up, and Michael Bradley's number come up in a game that we're chasing, I'd be like, nah, something's going on here. Like, there's no way. And then, by the way, to the point of this entire podcast, I wouldn't have even been able to focus on the game, because I'd have been looking at who does Clint Dempsey have a grip of? Who is Michael Bradley kicking on the sideline? Because that wouldn't have went over very well. You know what I mean? Like, I just thought that's an impossibility. And to your point, these guys don't play again anytime soon. The sub was in the 69th minute. And never mind when they play, by the way. This is the whole concept of playing for the crest. Who cares about your club? Like, Pochettino should be trying to win the game, which I know he was, right? And that's why he made the substitution. But I'm looking at it thinking, this is the strangest substitution in a competitive game that I've seen in a long time. And what was the basis of it?
Bruce Arena used to say to us, a coach shouldn't have to coach effort.
Yeah, correct.
I was like, it's such a Bruce comment, but it's so true. Like, you shouldn't have to coach that. That should be easy.
Yeah.
Can we talk real quick? Gio got called into camp.
Yeah.
So that Mauricio and the staff could see him. I feel like I always pick on this kid, but he barely played.
Yeah, I know.
He barely played over two. And Mauricio Pochettino said he's not fit enough to play in the way we want to play, which you had to know because he's not been playing games, right? There has to be more going on, man, because at least you would have given him 45, 60, 90 minutes just to see what he's about. And there's so many coaches, Tim, now that have not played him everywhere he's been.
Yeah, look,
I just want more for this kid. I do. And
we all do,
I'm
because
just disappointed every time.
Because he's so special. I mean, look, the one thing, I'll always, if you ever have questions or comments, send them in. If you ever read something and you're like, I can't figure this out, I'm the figure it out guru. Let me tell you, because I can read between lines. Just so you know, and Landon said we goalkeepers, we don't do much. That's true, we don't, but we can keep ourselves fit. Any other soccer player, any other player, if you're fit, you are fit. What it takes to play in a position like you did, Landon, or anywhere else on the field, essentially, you have to be able to run between 10 and 11K, and a certain percentage of that needs to be high-intensity sprints. That's not positional. That's every player. So when a manager says he's not fit to play in this, you can pick 20 different tactical styles. The fitness level is the exact same. So you either are fit to run and to play and to jump and to kick, or you're not fit. So again, I don't even know what that means, what I'm saying. I'm just saying in general, Mauricio Pochettino, when he says that, just for our audience, a player is either fit or they're not fit. It's a myth. It's a myth for someone to say he's not fit to play in our style.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
There's that. But what I would say is I don't quite know. Like, Matt Turner's not playing, right? And he got to start. I don't know of a professional player, right? Because you said he didn't play much. Our producers will tell us exactly how many minutes he played over the course of 2 games. But what I would say to you, what I would argue to you is he fit enough to play 2 times 90 minutes? If you want to argue no, I'll accept that. I'm saying if you're a professional football player and you have a contract as a professional, you are fit enough and you're not injured, you're fit enough to at least play 50, 60 minutes over the course of 2 games?
Minimum of one half. Okay. Bare minimum.
So I think, the selection disappoints me. Like, Gio doesn't disappoint me, but I'm disappointed in the fact that if we're giving players opportunity to play and the prerequisite isn't you have to be playing for your club to play for this national team, then I'm disappointed that we didn't see him.
Me too.
Yeah. So
me too. Because otherwise, bring someone who you can put in and can be effective. Because otherwise, I mean, look, let's just hope there's a bigger.
But Gio, very much like his father, and he'll probably hate the comparisons because he always gets compared to his father. Very much like his father, has a nasty streak in him, and we saw that. And that's kind of what we've been talking about, you and I, this episode. When he came on, right, and I spoke about it earlier, he's laid into one of those players on the sideline, got past him, took his knee off, and then started this confrontation, this kerfuffle of sorts. That's what we wanted to see.
But the problem is it was in the 91st
I know.
We didn't want to waste 3 minutes of time.
It's a massive problem.
That was the problem.
But he, this is a
but
kid.
yeah, fair enough.
He's super talented. He played 21 minutes over the last 2 games.
Just in the Canada
game. So, like, he's got talent. He's got a nasty streak to him. Why is? I'm not sure why he's not playing.
All right, let's take a break. We have lots and lots and lots of comments, questions, feedback, and we will get to it in the AT&T Fan Connection on the other side. Maybe won't even do anything but soccer just so we can get more questions in. You guys had a lot to say, so we'll be right back right here on Unfiltered Soccer with Landon and Tim, as always presented by our friends at Volkswagen. Stick around.
Time for the Fan Connection presented by AT&T. Every week, we invite you, the listener, to connect with us by submitting your questions. The best way to grow the game of soccer in the U.S. is to keep asking questions and keep talking about this sport we all love. At AT&T, connecting changes everything. And on USMNT, our connections with you will help grow the game. It is time, LD, for the AT&T Fan Connection. One of our favorite times of the week because we get to talk a lot of stuff, nonsense or otherwise, and then our wonderful fans get to write into us, comment, questions, and concerns, and we get
did they have a lot to say.
Have at it. And, Jordan, welcome. Your favorite time of the week, too. What kind of heat you got? A little AS Roma?
Oh, yeah. I couldn't stop myself. It's
That's
a third
amazing.
kit from like 99, 2000. I just like the
Wolves.
the
Yeah, it's
sleeves.
crazy.
Yeah,
Plus,
it's
it's
amazing.
one of the few ones I have with a name and number on the back.
Who's on the back?
Who's on it? Totti.
It better be.
Numero 10.
Oh,
Francesco.
It better be. There's no
What a
other.
guy. What a legend.
Oh,
All right.
Funny, wait, really, really quick. When
Yes.
Michael Bradley was playing for Roma, I called him and I said, Mike, can you get me a Totti jersey?
No, you didn't.
Bro, the next camp, he comes in with a signed Totti jersey for
No way.
Yeah.
What a legend.
Yeah, way. Legend,
That's
Michael Bradley.
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, keep going.
Busy.
All right. As you mentioned, we've got quite a number of comments and questions for you guys. So let's dive into some of the things you've already talked about to see if we can expand on some of them a little bit. I know you guys talked about a tweet that Landon put out. Somebody commented and said, Landon, how are you not allowed to go into a USMNT locker room and to tell them to their face? It would be great to see the past USMNT go and check on these guys.
Well, to be honest, one of my, I don't know if concerns is the right word, but I have been thinking about with Pochettino and his staff, there are no Americans, and this is not a xenophobic thing. There's just, you need to have context around the American player, the American system, MLS. I think that's very, very, very valuable. This is not a self-promoting, but there are many of us who would love that opportunity to honestly to speak to them. Having Clint Dempsey walk in and be a part of your staff and talk to you after performance like that is, I think, infinitely probably as valuable or maybe more valuable than hearing from your head coach. We've talked a lot about how players hold players accountable more than coaches do. I think that would be really powerful. So I would certainly not hold back if I was in that environment. But to that point, I think you can get ahead of that, right? So you say it before the Panama game. Guys, these guys have played in some of these games, but not a lot of them. And say, this is what this game is going to look like. You can throw the soccer out the window for 20, 30 minutes, and this is how you have to perform. This is how you have to compete. If you don't, we might lose today. If you do, we're going to win. And that's, that's powerful.
But do you not think that there's a flaw in the hiring process if, as a U.S. Soccer Federation, you pay this $5-6 million a year for Pochettino, and he can bring a staff, but you've got to be able at some point to mandate that. Look, we have to have an American. Not for the sake of having an American, but there has to be some sort of connectivity to.
Well, I would just say, Tim, too, it doesn't even have to be should be American. It doesn't have to be American, but somebody who understands what that environment in CONCACAF and all that is like. Yeah.
So we actually have before you go on, we actually have another question from Mike via email who said, my question is about having an American coaching the U.S. men's national team. After the Panama game, a lot of fans were questioning whether or not Pochettino is all in on the U.S. job. I know also, just as an aside, there was a lot of conversation because I think he went on TalkSport and was talking about wanting someday to go back and coach in the Premier League. And so maybe where that is coming from a little bit. But he just said, Mike's asking, do you think it's important for the coach to have American skin in the game?
I think Pochettino's all in. It's nice if you get settled here and have roots, but I do think Pochettino is all in, absolutely. And look, going back to having an American on staff or in the camp, not just a singular camp, but in the camp, it has to be someone who is committed and dialed into the team because you have to be able to suffer day to day with the team. This concept, by the way, these current players, as we were, they don't give a good goddamn about me walking into a dressing room and telling them what I think and pontificating. In fact, most of them hate what I say on this podcast because nobody wants to I didn't want to be criticized. I didn't like it.
Well, to your point, unless you have skin in the game, right?
Yeah.
We have emotional skin in the game, but someone who is there on staff. I'm not saying walk in once in a while and go speak. Someone who is there on staff who understands what all these battles are like, I think is highly valuable.
Yeah.
And yes, Tim, to your point, that should absolutely be a mandate from U.S. Soccer that, look, you can bring your staff up, but here's this one man or woman who's been through this, and they're going to be part of your staff too.
I remember,
or here's 5 of them. You interview them and you choose one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's a miss. I remember. I always remember because I remember looking up to so many of these giant European players. But you remember when Oliver Bierhoff was part of the German setup, where he was like
the manager.
He was like a go-between. He's like, he was a manager,
the general manager or something.
Yeah, and I think we tried that, didn't we? With was it with Brian McBride or with? It wasn't Ernie Stewart, but we tried it with some. But for whatever reason, that's gone out of the game. But like, to your point, on the point of the question, like, there has to be somebody in U.S. Soccer on the general manager level, the day-to-day that's in, and maybe that's, maybe that's Oguchi Onyewu. I know there's some people there, but
it has to be in camp in the with skin in the game. It has to be in the dressing room, like, has context, because we're talking about, but we don't know if Zack Steffen really was sick or not. We're guessing, right? So you need to be there and be like, hey, Mauricio, we know Zack's sick. Put him in his room for 30 hours. He's going to be fine. Play him. You know what I mean? So, like, yeah.
We have a question from someone else called Zack via email, and he said
Zack
the US. This speaks, I think, to kind of the overall feeling of this episode. Zack said the U.S. men's national team has seemed to lack fight and pride in some of the recent international windows. Do you think this issue falls more on the manager or the players? Are there any players you would like to see called into camp over the next year who might be able to help remedy this and bring some intensity back to the team?
Right now, it falls on the players.
Yeah.
If this continues, then it falls on the manager. So the manager and the staff, Pochettino and his staff, now have decisions to make, important decisions for the Gold Cup. And it doesn't have to be in the roster selection, but in who's playing in that first game, you're damn right. And it better be guys who are really committed and really willing to go to war. And I think he's given them grace and he's given them opportunities. But now he's got to say, okay, I need to know the guys who are willing to do it. And I got to see it.
It always falls on the players. And here's why. I'm talking specifically with your country. You don't get to play for your country very often. You get to play for your country 10 days out of every year. Okay. If you're talking about the mundane of playing in the Premier League and then a cup game in the midweek and then another game, and then you're like, oh, it's dark and it's dreary. It rains every day. Yeah, maybe the manager every now and again you need a swift kick up the backside. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I always believe a player should be self-motivated. Certainly the leadership core should motivate the group. But when you play for your country, it has nothing to do with the manager. You have to envision a scenario of, holy heck, we don't know where the manager is, but we're kicking off in 2 hours. You go to that game without your manager, doesn't change anything.
Yeah, you're right.
Doesn't change how.
Wouldn't it change a damn thing?
It wouldn't change your mentality or it has nothing to do. Your manager can't save you when you walk across the lines. Only the 11 guys that are on the field can give that effort like that. It's amazing to me that we are talking about effort, and that not just us, because apparently fans of the show and the fans of the U.S. men's national team are also talking about this. So people are seeing it, and that's a crime. It really is.
I'm also curious, since you're talking about managers and what a manager does for the game, what do you think it did for the Canadian players to see Jesse Marsch get red carded?
Jesse's got a real buy-in. Jesse's got a real buy-in from that group. Jesse's a good manager. He is one of the most stand-up human beings that I've ever met. And he, in that group, whatever they're cooking over there, they look at the U.S. and we are their number one target. And they play like it. They perform like it. even Jesse Jesse's very calculated. I'm not surprised. I'm sure he didn't want to be sent off, but he knows how to motivate his team, and fair play. Hats off to Jesse Marshall and the Canadian team, and not just for this game, the way they've been going over the last year or so.
We had a comment on Instagram where someone mentioned about the order of the games for the semifinals. They said, what other federation has their team play as the opening act of their biggest rival?
That's so true.
Who asked that question?
We didn't capture what the person. Sorry to whoever the person was.
Incredible question. Incredible
So
question.
Yeah,
I mean,
great.
think about it could be because Landon was quick to correct and say like it's not on US Soccer, it's on CONCACAF, and I agree. Can we for a second like stop it? Like we're 12 months away almost from a World Cup. We're showcasing our nation.
Totally.
This is the CONCACAF Nations League in one of the biggest cities in America. Did you watch the game? Like how can FIFA or CONCACAF or US or whomever, how can they live with this? How can they be okay with this? Like, because by the way, we're showcasing what America can do. This is what we do best. No one puts on live sporting events like we do. ... Until it comes to the Nations League. Like it's crazy. It's a great question. I'm sure they'll post. And I know SoFi, by the way, I've been there for the Super Bowl. It's huge. I get it. It's freaking ginormous. And I'm sure they'll post numbers that say there was, I don't know, one of our producers can get us a number. I'm sure there was 35,000 people there.
No, there wasn't.
I guess.
They have the same counter as the New England Revolution.
Don't start. Don't. The Rev fans, we're already
trying to give them a
enemy
week off.
#1.
I think every week we got to bring that in somehow to the show. Yeah, it was. It's a CONCACAF deal, so it's. But like I said earlier, have conversations and say, guys, we got it, or don't play it at SoFi. Fine, play it somewhere else then.
Yeah, but again, okay, Landon, you said that US Soccer. We let US Soccer off took a little bit, but I'm also saying, hang on, it's a CONCACAF thing. If it's in Jamaica, it's like, oh, it's in Jamaica. That's your fault. This is US Soccer's
in America.
problem.
No. I said that. I know. If you're US Soccer, you got to have the. And by the way, we're not playing at 3:30. We're playing at 7:30.
Easy.
That's for sure. By the way, I do know too. You had to buy one ticket for both games. So if 100 was the lowest ticket price, that was supposedly for both games. But it was trying to get people to buy for both games. But they didn't buy for the American game. So
okay, one last question, guys. This one was a long one, but I feel like I can pretty much get to the point quickly. This is from Eric via email. Could you guys give your unfiltered thoughts, I will answer for them, yes they can, on what the Gold Cup really means at this point?
Well, yeah, okay, I'll go first. So as I'm thinking about this episode, this could change, but I don't think it will. I think I got really excited about the Nations League. I did. I'm going to be far more calculated, and pessimistic is not the right word, but I think this group needs to show everyone more. And so I think I'm going to be slightly more calculated as we build up to the Gold Cup and the preview of what that looks like. Because yeah, I think it's a must win. A must win because it's the same thing I continue to say. This group needs to be together in a tournament format where it really, really matters, playing every 3 or 4 days, and they need to win. This is their last opportunity to do that before they go into the World Cup, which is all the things I just said. So for me, I think it's incredibly important. Incredibly important. I think you need to see 6 wins. I think you need to see a couple of them where they dig in. You need to see 3 or 4 wins that are emphatic, and then they need to win.
I'm going to hope for what I was hoping for against Canada, which was terrible performance against Panama. And I even in our group text, I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I think it's going to be a great game because Canada lost to Mexico. They hate our guts. Our guys just got beat by Panama. So our guys are going to be like livid and cannot wait to get on the field and kick someone. And then they didn't do any of it. Canada held up their part of the bargain. We didn't. I hope that we get into camp and the coaching staff has learned a lot from it and the tone is set very quickly. And more than that, I hope the players now, leading into the camp, when they get into the pre-camp against Turkey and whoever else they play, I hope they sit together and say, guys, that was shit. And like we owe our country more than that.
Yeah,
we do. If we're going to wear this jersey, it's got to be more. Forget about the coaches. Like Christian, you're a leader. Tyler, you're a leader. Weston, you're a leader. Tim Ream, if you're there. Matt Turner, this ain't good enough, guys. And let's make it right.
Right here, but here's why I like you, because you forgot that George W. Bush said there's an old saying in Texas: "Fool me once, shame on me. fool me twice, can't fool me again.
Can't fool me again."
Well, we've been fooled. We've been fooled because here's why, Landon.
Yeah.
I agree. The Panama game should have been a slap in the face. Ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen against Canada. Guess what? It happened. So now what you're saying is, okay, this group needs to take a hard look in the mirror and come out fighting.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I remember a couple guys getting sent off, not having accountability. Manager gets sacked. You remember all the post game interviews when Greg Berhalter got sacked? It's on it's accountability.
Yeah, you're right.
We ain't seen that. What have we seen?
You're right.
What have we seen from this group that tells you they're gonna hold each other to a cord? We haven't.
No, I haven't.
No, we haven't. So this is why I'm saying.
That's why I said I hope.
I know you did.
I know what would have happened at your Everton teams. I know that.
Yeah.
But
this is not a soccer podcast unless somebody says it's the hope that kills you. So be real careful with that.
These poor people are just turning into the national team. For
Rock
the first
bottom
time.
has a trap door. Yeah.
Rock bottom has it. I'm going to be optimistic, Tim.
You weren't today, but I'll hold you to
mad, dude. I'm so why do I care so much? I
You know why you
golf.
care.
Why don't I just golf?
You do both. You care and you golf a lot.
I love golfing.
I do think though, it's like as a fan, I take a lot of comfort in that because like one of the things that makes me really crazy, and I think we got a comment like this somewhere on our socials, is someone saying, I support the U.S. men's national team, whether they win or lose. Mm-hmm. And my response to that is, why are you making it sound like criticizing the team after two losses is not supporting the team? Like
totally
we're upset because we care.
Right.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Otherwise you just be like, haha, you lost. And
100%.
Right.
100%.
All right.
Agreed.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, JR. All right, Tim. I wish I could say it was fun. It was interesting. Let's hope next time we're dissecting U.S. soccer, U.S. men's national team games, that it's much more pleasant.
Yeah.
I do enjoy, however, hanging out with you, Tim, and with all you guys listening. So thank you. We appreciate all your support. Remember, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, and follow us across all social media for a lot more bonus content.
Yeah, so much love to our fans and our listeners. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, VW, and our Fan Connection sponsor, AT&T. Have an amazing week. Look forward to getting back with you next Tuesday with another edition of Unfiltered Soccer.